Welcome to the DePaud, a DePaul Hoops podcast brought to you by Under the L. Go check out underthel.org today and get on board. Under the L is the NIL collective for your DePaul Blue Demons that aims to bring financial coaching and business services to our student athletes in all sports. Your involvement and subscription to Under the L not only has a direct effect on the talent that can be attracted to DePaul, but you get some great membership perks from exclusive gear to larger social events involving our student athletes. Go and check out underthel.org now. The train's leaving the station. Are you on board? On today's episode, we have special guest DeWayne Peevy, DePaul Athletic Director, talking about the season to this point, the McGrath-Phillips Arena update, and the practice facility update, and much, much more. Before we get into DeWayne's interview, we will preview the Creighton game that's later today. So let's jump right into it. Let's go, Blue Demon Nation.
Look to his shot.
Spins, fade away. Yes, sirree! Chandler hits the three.
Oh, tough shot. Giving it up to Reed.
Welcome into the DePaul Hoops podcast. As we mentioned earlier, we are brought to you by Under the L. Go check out underthel.org. It is the NIL collective for your DePaul Blue Demons. So go sign up for a subscription at underthel.org now. We are also brought to you by Home Field. Home Field's a premium college apparel brand that digs through history to find unique logos, mascots, and moments from your school, DePaul. So head over to homefield.com, and if you're a first-time customer, use promo code the DePaud at checkout and enjoy 15% off your order, or click the link in our bio wherever you're getting this podcast, and you'll get that as well. So before we get into our interview with DeWayne, let's talk a little bit about the Creighton game tonight. Creighton's coming into the game at 11-4 and 2-2 overall in the Big East. They're led by Baylor Shireman and Ryan Kalkbrenner. Shireman is leading them in scoring with nearly 18 points a game. The reality is Creighton is a very good team. It's a Coach McDermott team where, it's not your mom's Coach McDermott team. They're not as good of shooters as they have been in the past, but they've still got Baylor Shireman, who's leading the Big East in 3 points per game. It's not exactly the same type of team. They're missing a couple pieces here and there, but they've still got Ryan Kalkbrenner. They've still got Baylor Shireman, and it's still a team coached by Coach McDermott. That said, during the media availability earlier, I asked Coach Stubbs about Creighton ranking last in forcing turnovers, and he said, they're still a really good defensive team, which of course is one of the hallmarks of a McDermott coach team. They've got great rim protection, obviously with Kalkbrenner, and they do a great job of keeping people in front of them. So really, what we need to see from DePaul is shutting down Shireman and Kalkbrenner, and then it's a tall task, of course, but Creighton's being favored by 15 points, but ultimately DePaul will need to get more than two guys scoring. In the past couple of games, UConn, 76% of DePaul's points were from Deshaun Nelson and Elijah Fisher. It's just you're not going to win any game. You're not going to win games like that when you only have two guys scoring. And similar thing happened against Georgetown with Deshaun and Jaden Henley getting the lion's share of the points. Guys like Chico and Jeremiah are going to have to start, get it going again, get back to where they were shooting offensively or playing offensively in non-conference, and getting a nice chunk of points there. A lot of ball movement is going to need to happen. They've got to start making space for their shooters like Chico, like KT, who KT has had some struggles, notably in Big East play thus far. So it's really one of those things where you really want to see you really need someone down low to help facilitate from the post, help facilitate and be a little bit more of a offensive threat. And slowly but surely, Mac Etienne has started to get a little bit more comfortable down there. You saw it last game. I mean, he was 3 for 4, but every little bit helps, and the more you can count on him, the more you can rely on him, because he does. I mean, he gets it. It's just a matter of him putting his knowledge and his basketball IQ into the physical aspect of it. So we'll see what happens there. But again, Creighton is favored by 15.5 points, so it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be one of those games where there's a snowstorm with Creighton. I feel like we've had that before, and a weeknight snowstorm versus Creighton, and the game I think is at 8:00. So it's again one of those weird times and weird weather events as well, all crammed into one. So got to see more offense from some of the guys like KT Ramey, like Chico Carter, and Jeremiah Odin. So we gotta get them involved, and then Elijah Fisher too. I mean, he led the team in scoring versus UConn, and then I think he had maybe 2 or 3 baskets, maybe 6 points, if that, in the game versus Georgetown, where you'd think he'd be able to get going and find space and create. So let's hope for a good competitive game today. And with that said, let's jump into our interview with DePaul's athletic director, DeWayne Peevy. All right, welcome into the DePaud, DeWayne Peevy. Thank you for taking the time today to join me. How have you been, and how are you doing today?
Thanks again, John. I mean, it's good to be in the 2024. 23 has been a rougher year than expected. I thought it was our Jordan year. Maybe it was a good year for Chicago, but a fresh start, get started back into school now, the school year getting started. And so, I'm looking forward to getting our student athletes back on campus, our full complement versus just men and women's basketball, and kind of getting this thing back started in the right way.
Sounds good. And, you mentioned men's and women's basketball. They had a busy December. How important is it to have the students back on campus and everyone, available to come to games?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I was going to say that. And we need that energy back in Wintrust Arena. I mean, I miss that. I mean, the biggest thing I loved about last year's sellout crowd against Marquette was that we had 1,100 students, right? Our student population, maybe in my time here, the students are probably a little more involved because we're working with them a lot more. We're contacting them. We're asking them. I mean, we're basically begging them to come out and support your school. This is your team. You want to be able to pride to wear the DePaul on your chest. You can make a difference. 500 students in there, it's a loud place because they're rowdy next to the team bench. And our own guys and girls, they get into it too. And so that's the one way we can impact attendance in a short term, is get our students back in there. Let's get to a point where 500 is the minimum we're going to have, and get to 1,000 students. We've got 20,000+ students on this campus. We don't need everybody, but we need enough to do their part. So we got a lot of cool things. I'm giving out cookies tomorrow. On the bus trip over, we're giving out 5 shots at 5 different students are get a shot at $10,000. We're doing our part to try to get them to help our team, get over that hump.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw the marketing for that. That'll be a fun. Hopefully, someone can make it, or multiple people can make it.
Yeah,
so,
let's let all 5 make it, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, real quick before we get into things, we did, the DePaul community did experience the loss of Joey Meyer, and I wanted I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about his impact on the program and what his loss to the whole entire basketball community means.
Well, one of the things that our whole basketball community knows about is the Meyer family. And although mainly because of COVID and just, he had some reoccurring illness problems throughout my tenure. I didn't get a chance to spend a bunch of time with Coach Joey, and obviously meeting with a lot of his players, whether when he was an assistant or a head coach, really getting to know kind of who he was. I invited him. I remember we had the COVID year with no fans, and I'm sitting in a suite watching games with nobody there. And there was a couple of times where we thought we were going to come together. He was going to come watch the game with me. And both of the occasions, he ended up not feeling well and, not up to it. And, it was a missed opportunity because it was something I was looking forward to. I mean, I love the sport of basketball enough to just talk with people, especially the history of the game. And at that point in time, I'm really trying to learn DePaul, right? And what better way is to get it from Joey Meyer, who's seen all sides of it, from a student athlete to an assistant coach to a head coach, and then be able to see it from afar. I was really looking forward to that, really keeping in touch with members of his family through, third parties throughout the whole process of knowing what's going on. And obviously when we lost him, it was good to see the DePaul community reach out with such loving things to say, the testaments that people were making, because that's when you really know how much someone means, to this, basketball family. And it stretched far beyond, Chicago and Lincoln Park, which was really cool. Even myself hearing from, a lot of people that knew, Joey well. And, for his family, obviously we were out on the road. We had did a road trip for UConn and Georgetown and weren't coming back, and Coach Stubblefield and I flew back, to make sure we were here for some, some of the services, to be there for his family. I hadn't met Barbara, his wife, yet. And so getting a chance to visit with her and, and his brother Binky and, just, let them know that we're there for them, that the Paul family is there. And I think we're going to try to figure out some other things we can do in the future, after we get through this grieving period, to make sure we celebrate Joey in the right way too, And
Sure.
I really want the Meyer family and as a whole to be part of what's going on at DePaul in his future. I think it's missing. And, how can we incorporate that? A lot of that is getting some of those players back and involved, starting with Mark Aguirre, the stuff that we're doing with Terry Cummins later. But obviously there's a lot of connection that brings that together. There's no reason for us not to bring that past success back into the fold, because it just feels like the right thing to do. And so I hate it. I talked to a bunch of the alums, and it's like we always end up getting together at times like this. We got to do a better job of getting together for some happy reasons, some celebrations, reunions, things of that nature, and not always be when we lose some of our loved ones. And and I made a vow to them that we're going to do an even better job, but I need them to meet me halfway. And a lot of them are very interested in, trying to get back and getting involved and, and helping get this program where it needs to be.
Sure. And yes. And it sounds like, we're moving in the right direction with that, with the athletic department retiring jerseys of 4 great people in February. Talk a little bit more about how, what their legacy and honoring their legacies and why that's so important to DePaul.
Well, I think one of the things, like from day one when I got this job, one of the best assets we have is the alums that are people that have gone through this program. Part of it that hurts a little bit where maybe some notoriety outside of DePaul is in reach because we weren't in a conference for a long period of time. So you don't have a conference promoting you and getting you more things out there. And then we started getting on that conference track, and then we switched conferences several times during that time period. I mean, talk about trying to recreate a record book around here. You don't have a lot of sources because you got to go to the Associated Press, and maybe you'll get a little bit from different conferences. I know Courtney's been working on that. But I think one of the things I looked up, and especially when I think about the rafters at Wintrust Arena and having a program with such history, one of my first dinners when I met with Mark Aguirre is one he alluded to me because I hadn't had games or anything yet. And him and George Mikan were the only one in the rafters. And, after looking into it, and obviously there are National Players of the Year, people have different standards. But one of the things that I did at Kentucky, I was the chair of our Hall of Fame committee. We, had a jersey retirement subcommittee. And it was like something that I want everybody, this generation of young people to know who played here, who competed here. From an alumni standpoint, we are blue blood. When you really look at the amount of, especially on the men's basketball side, who's come through this program, there were people that I didn't even know played at DePaul when I was looking into the job, because I remember them as pros, maybe not as a DePaul athlete.
Sure.
And what we've done, not just in men's basketball, but not a women's basketball player, the student athletes that have gone through here, we haven't done that in any other sport, not honor anybody to that level. And so I thought it was something that we wanted to look into and have an opportunity for Diana Vines and Terry Cummins and Dave Dopek, our only national champion ever. I look at Dave every day and I'm like, okay, you won the 200 and you were second in the outdoor in the 200. And I watched the old tape. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch the race. And even the announcer's like, this guy's got no shot. Even when he starts out early, he's like dogging him, like, yeah, he'll get called eventually. But it just outworked the next guy. And it's just so much about what DePaul is about. Being a so-called little school under the L for years, doing so much more with a little. And we haven't lost that blue grit, and that's what we got to be about. But I'm also tired of limiting ourselves. And, I know people ridicule me on dream big and what it means, but if we can't dream about what we can be, we'll never get there, right? Like, I want to go to the extreme, right? I want to fix this to a point where we can talk about trying to win a championship. And if we miss that goal, then we're playing in postseason, not put all our eggs in a basket to get to the tournament. And when we miss, we fail, right? There's no in between. So that's who I am, right? And as long as I can have the energy to keep powering through this, I hate losing and it sucks, right? And so, like, we're not winning in anything right now at a high level enough to even overcome what's going on in men's basketball. So let's celebrate our past, because it's one of the things that we hold dear, one of the things that we have as an asset. There's a lot more to do than this, but I think there's some work to be done of friend raising and bringing people back into the fold. And that's not just our alums. That's also our season ticket holders and fans of the past, our donors that were with us, from alumni hall days that maybe took the trek out to Rosemont. We got a lot of those people that are not with us right now. And I want those people back into this program too, because it's theirs. I'm in this seat for a small amount of time, right? At some point I'm going to retire. I'm 50, but it's going to be a small amount of time when you really look at the history of DePaul. But I've got people that have been with it longer than me, that have either graduated here, worked here, that is embedded in who you are. Those are the people that I want to talk to, because I know they're vested in figuring this out so we can put ourselves in a better situation, because we're in one of the greatest leagues in America. It's not going to be easy, but I feel like we're at a point right now with our leadership, our campus involvement, board of trustees investment and attention to this. I don't think we're in a better spot than I ever even imagined we could be at DePaul right now when I even took this job. The job is harder because the Big East is better. And we add a lot of elements that we were behind in. But I will tell you this, we are poised to really, we gotta make a run at this across the board. Really see if we can compete at the level and the highest of the Big East across the board. And I think everything we're doing from a facility standpoint, operating, our new approach to NIL, all those things are making me excited, at least about, we might not be doing great in the present right now, but the excitement for what is to come feeds me daily.
Yeah, you talked about the facilities, you talked about like different things that you all are doing. I mean, from the perspective of Wintrust and from the perspective of what our social teams are doing and our marketing groups are doing, out in the world, everyone's lauding it. Like, what Wintrust could be if DePaul was doing what we all want them to do. It's a great home court advantage that could develop there when DePaul gets clicking. And then of course our social teams and our media group with Mike Glasgow and all of them, like what they're doing is just phenomenal. So there's a lot of good things that you all are doing, and I think that the next thing is, of course, just win. You did mention facilities and some of the updates and having the board of directors along better than we ever had. So with that, how's the new facility and facility update project coming along?
No, before that, I do want to comment on your stuff about that social team. We brought in Cassidy Brown, now LMB. From Maryland. She's the head of marketing for Maryland basketball, and basically put her over marketing and communications. She hired Courtney Day to lead our communications efforts. Got Jessica Dorsey on the women's basketball side of it, bringing in Mike Glasgow over to creative services. Man, we started envisioning like different pieces because I thought, hey, we might not be able to have the wherewithal to do X, but we can be really good at this because you can just have talent. And I'm going to give you guys the whiteboard to kind of, live out your dreams. Keep in mind, John, think about it. We've got what? We won 3 games in men's basketball. Attendance is up and butts and seats and revenue. I don't even know how. So, like, if we actually can win games, we'd be selling out. We definitely would have the lower bowl sold out.
Sure.
Our external team's doing their part. Now we got to do our part on the court to be able to take advantage of the foundation that is now in place because I feel like I have the team in place that behind the scenes on the external and internal side that are getting it done. Now on the facilities piece of it, we started our project construction December 4th on the renovation of the Sullivan Athletic Center and McGrath Phillips Arena. Those things are going well. I can't keep myself out of there poking around every day trying to look and take pictures. Just envisioning, obviously we have some challenges. We're down to 1 court right now where we're practicing everything on. And it's been good for the last 6 weeks because we've had nothing here but men and women's basketball. But just seeing, us stripping the floor out and laying the electrical and all the walls get knocked down. I kind of want a couple nights. I want to get a sledgehammer and go knock a few walls down myself based on what's going on. But just envisioning what it can be. And what I've done recently, I went at UConn, I went at Georgetown. I've got some playing trips where I'm really looking at the facilities of other schools, taking a tour. And I've been doing some of it with my son, but for my own purposes, I'm looking at our facility project. And it makes me feel even better about what we're doing. And it's such a need for us. People talk about, well, you got NIL is more important. I said, we're so beneath everybody else facility-wise that we have to do this because it's not a want, it's a need. Our other sports don't have locker rooms or anything at all. And basketball doesn't have a dedicated time to be able to allow, where's this program go? The way I look at it, I'm building things to be able to have success at a level where if we're successful on the basketball court in men and women's basketball, I'm not having to worry about losing a staff or a coach or anything like that because we're going to have everything in place to succeed at an even higher level. And if things don't work out, we got to make a change in any sport or, so be it, like Coach Bruno retires or something. We got to have things in place to be able to succeed at a high level. That's the job I can do. And I think this is a big step for us. It's exciting for those Olympic sport coaches that by next fall, they'll have a locker room for volleyball, softball, track and field, both soccers, and they've never had one in school history, right? Our golf program will have a place, not just men and women's basketball. And so, I think those are huge steps that aren't forgotten in this project because the basketball piece moving is allowing more room for all these other things to happen. We're a Big East program right now. We need to act like it. And that's on every sport level. And there's different things we have to do to get there. But that's the job, right? That's the hard part where you got to grind in. It's just like with you creating the DePaud, right? There's a lot of work that goes into the front end to even get to this spot. But then there's so much more work to get to where you want this to go, to be out there where it's known not just by DePaul fans, but regionally and get to a point. So when we start winning games, we're, either you're dragging us, John, or we're bringing you with us, right? Because
Sure.
the attention is what changes it, right? But a lot of work goes on behind the scenes. And so I'm not discounting. Results matter in this business, right? And I'm not a person that's running from it. I came here knowing this is going to be hard, right?
Sure.
I wanted the challenge. And now between my staff and our campus partners, our president, our board of trustees, our faculty, our staff, our students are in alignment, right? We're working our own things because, Dr. Manuel, he's got his own vision similar to what I had to do, 2 or 3 years ago of what he's got to do for my campus. And we're a small part of it, but it's great to feel that you're a vital part of it and everybody else knows what you got going on. Our staff, our faculty, our students, they want to see us win because they need that to be an asset. We've done a lot better job at getting the relationships built because we couldn't get this facility project off the ground if our school didn't believe it was important too. And I think that's the thing that makes it exciting. I'm getting text message from I'm getting text message from deans, from faculty, from students to my public email address to alums, longtime season ticket holders, people that have stopped going to games. And it's a mix of, I can't believe what I'm seeing and I'm angry, to hang in there, keep fighting with us. We believe in you. I need that too, right? I mean, because there's some lonely nights when you're losing games and you're trying to keep pushing forward. And my job is to work on bettering the current as best we can, but always keeping an eye on how it impacts our future, right? And being a gatekeeper for that, right? Because there's a legacy to protect here too. I didn't come here to screw things up. I came here to put it in a much better light and get us back to where we deserve to be. And so that facility project, exciting. Putting on that little hard hat with a Blue Demon logo on it. Like, to me, I always feel like if you don't have cranes, something's going on. If you're not constantly constructing, moving, adding, you're falling behind. And that's probably something I learned from John Calipari, is that you always got to be working on being a step ahead because somebody else is working. And
Absolutely.
So right now, we've got to keep moving forward. I can't sit here and cry over spilled milk. I've got to keep pushing forward because we got work to do. We've got to get this right. We got to get this right, and we will get this right one way or another.
Well, yeah, no, I think what you mentioned there, always trying to be a step ahead of everyone, especially from where you're coming from, where we were multiple steps behind. So that is no easy task, I'm sure. Another aspect where we are a little bit behind on, or we had been, if you could, touch on it a little bit, is the budget for men's basketball. And of course, athletics as a whole has been historically lower in the Big East Conference. Has there been improvement with Rob Manuel, with the new board of trustees, or with the more invigorated board of trustees? And what have the difficulties been trying to get to that increase?
Well, I think where it really started, I wouldn't call it difficulties, but I just think it's, a lack of knowledge or understanding of what I would call major college athletics is, right? The great thing about this facility project is we had to socialize it with so many people, campus partners, external partners like our donors, but everybody across the board. I mean, I've talked to every committee much as I can, obviously, student leadership turns over. But we started with the basics, John, of really explaining why athletics even exist and what it does. Like, don't assume anybody understands it. Let's tell everybody the same story and build from there. Then show why we're in the Big East and why that's important. So people can get off like we got to get another league to solve our problems, right? And then really show where we are and what we need to do. And I would say across the board, nobody feels like we're in a rich getting richer kind of scenario. They know we're in a need situation. Then you got to turn about, okay, how does the finances work? Understanding it's an investment versus just a, hey, we got to write this check to athletics and we get nothing out of it. Like, we're all in this together. We're the front porch of the university, whether anyone likes it or not. And so we can bring so much joy to this university if we're, winning games and being successful. And what I tell our faculty is that the only way I can help you if I'm good. If I'm good, I can help you. I'm not worth a damn to you if we're not winning games, right? I can give you free tickets. You can show up, but you can't give them away. But if we're doing really well and there's demand, you can get a meeting with anybody. You got 2 hours to lock somebody down. You want to be honored at center court in a big house. And none of these faculty have been here to see it. They've never experienced it. And so, it's an idea. And so I think that's the thing that helps, is that, the last time the numbers came out publicly, we were last, right? And we're a good situation away from last, especially in men's basketball and men's soccer. We were last in those sports, which is one of our conferences, a soccer basketball conference, and here we are at the bottom of both. We took a step forward last year, mainly because the cost of doing business went up. Travel increases, buses, things of that nature. And so we took a step forward, but we're now working on a plan where it's a long plan of how we have incremental growth to be able to be at a competitive level, not just trying to work about, and it can't be writing a check. It's got to be, okay, what are the things we need? And so, Taylor Stapleton in my office, who I brought in to be in charge of strategic initiatives and revenue generation. He's really busy because now I basically made him my chief financial officer too. So he's in charge of the budget and the revenue. So he's a spender and the guy that's helping make money. And we're really breaking it down. Like, what are our needs? What are the things that are cost of doing business going up? What are the gaps on what are needs? Because let's say you need $2 million. Well, you can't say I just need $2 million in men's basketball. Like, what are we missing? Right. And so we've been really to dial into the gear, the travel, the food, those kind of things that we're behind a little bit. We when I first got here, we weren't chartering to games. We're now doing that privately we're doing that for recruiting purposes. We're doing that for team travel. We're not missing any gaps. We're in a lot better places as I go around the league than a lot of folks think too. And so we're closer there. And I think in a short period of time, just based on the board of trustees' involvement and the approval of this project, it was basically, here's the whole total plan. That strategic plan that we worked on to finalize in July of 21 is moving on its way. Everything is in alignment with that. And we got to make sure we're in alignment with designing DePaud, which is Rob Manuel's overall school plan, which is not a strategic plan. We can have our strategic plans underneath that. And we are just linked in step right now with what our university is doing. We want to be, that platform that can drive and people. I want people to look at athletics and say, hey, if I want to do this, I should follow what athletics did. Or I want somebody to tell the DePaud athletic story at one point of where we were, how we changed it, and how we got there. And I feel like we're still on track. We've had some bumps in the road. When we started this, NIL wasn't even a thing. It's a factor now that we got to throw in. We got to have the operating. We got to have the facilities. We got to have NIL in place. But those are the things that we're working on throughout our school. Everybody knows it, and we're working through that because it's not simply one thing versus the other. All of those things matter. But I do think we are primed for a big leap forward. I think I said at the end of last year, the next 6 weeks are going to be very important in our men's basketball program when it ended. What I was alluding to then is that we were really trying to make some decisions at that point on our investment in NIL and what we were doing for our facility project. That got put on hold because we had to take a step back on where we were from our university finances. And we made some adjustments. We weren't in any kind of deficit, what people put out there, but we had to figure out where is our plan going forward as a university. And obviously, as athletics being a very small 6 to 8% of the budget of the university, we can't be dictating where we're going. So we had to get those things under wraps. And then we were able to announce what we thought we might be doing in the spring. We were able to do it at the beginning of the fall, right? Because we felt in a better situation. Obviously, we committed to raising more of the money. And, now we started that process. We've got some commitments, verbal commitments already on the project. We hope the month of January is even better. We finished the month of January with the Blue Demon Challenge to really help people understand the giving you do on that day is not only going to help us right now, this current year, but also for our future going forward. And so it's a great time to be involved with DePaud. And if you've been thinking about, like, I'm frustrated, this is the time to get involved. Find out what's going on, right? And because this is a time for change. We're on the uptick. Sometimes you got to take a major step back to take a giant leap forward. All right, we've seen the step back. I'm tired of that. I'm not backing up anymore. We're ready to fight. So let's start moving forward and see where we can get this thing.
That's I think there's a whole lot of people that are ready to fight as well too. So and they'll all be in your corner. So let's talk a little bit about on the court, since we've talked a lot about off the court. To this point, with the women's basketball program, some success in certain areas, but some in conference play. Where are things at with the women's basketball program?
Well, the one thing, if you watch this team, you can't help but love watching them play. They're so together. When you think about teams, you want them to be one, and they share it and shoot it. I'm finally getting to see a little bit of a Bruno ball that I haven't had a chance to see, where they're pressing some. You got multiple shooters. They got assists. And we've had some games get away from us a little bit. But it's a byproduct. It's a different world out there right now. And our approach it's not the same kind of approach. We just lost, our top 2 scorers to 2 SEC schools. I saw Darian Rogers with the SEC Player of the Week a week ago. Anissa Morrow's doing great, but we got to move on from that, and we got to build it a different way. Now, this team right here, we've got a different complement. We got a lot of transfers. You got freshmen. He's got a great recruiting class coming in, and we'll be busy in the portal. But it's a different way, and I think that's a lot of it from a lot of our head coaches is you can be hesitant all you want, that the portal is an important part of how you manage and maintain your roster. But what's going to happen is you're going to get poached, and then you're going to not have anything. You're going to be trying to feel versus being aggressive and being out there as well. And I think some of that, I've seen it across the country. It's not just DePaul. And I'm not saying that's the women's basketball problem, but you went to a point where my first year, we had a bunch of seniors. We got a bunch of people back a year, and we didn't take that step forward on the court. We didn't succeed in it. And then it puts you behind a little bit because you passed on some things by keeping people. And then, you lose your top two people so you don't have the cornerstones to build around. But we've got some outstanding players right now. I love the makeup of the team. Now you need those pieces that you add when you lose a few of them off this year's team to graduation. Most of this team can be back. If the waivers go our way, you can have most of the team back. And we still have 2 open scholarships this year that we could have used on the women's basketball because they got 15 scholarships where the men get 13. And so I feel like we're not far. Obviously Doug's such a competitor that he's figured out, he's got the whole season in his head. I'm very confident in Coach Bruno of getting this done. He's my coach. He's our coach. And if I had anybody in this situation is going to get this figured out, I know it's him, right? And so I want to figure out how I can help him more and what does he need from me to maybe bridge some of those gaps because we're pouring a lot. Same things we're doing in men's basketball, we're doing in women's basketball, moving them to Wintrust, trying to increase operating budgets. We added a staff position in the offseason. The practice facility and all those things are going to benefit them as well. Now we have Doug Bruno Court, at Wintrust too. So what's that last piece we need as far as the roster makeup that I can help with? And so, I feel confident, like not giving up on this because they can play with anybody in our league right now. But the league is so much better in women's basketball than when I first got here. I mean, you got 7 or 8 teams that can really play, and then the bottom's got new coaches and investment. So, there's no real bottom anymore. Or if you see somebody there, it's going to be short-lived. And so it's not just, UConn, who's obviously at the top of the food chain, but there's other tournament teams now. We've had as many as 5 teams make the tournament now. So it's a different ball game and versus what I walked into looking toward to where there was no UConn and DePaul, was a team that everybody's trying to knock off, and so now how do we get back there? How do we get back up there? How do we climb that ladder? Because this program has the history to succeed. Everything we want men's basketball to be a fun style to play, a winning tradition, winning on the court, playing as a team. Man, the women's team has that. Come out and support this team. It doesn't cost much. And if you listen to this and you hit me on social media, I'll take your tickets. I want you to come out, support this team because they deserve you to help fight with them.
Absolutely. No, those were always some of my most fun games when I was a student was with Missy Mitadero and Allie Quigley and Sam Quigley, all of those girls playing like crazy. I mean, they were phenomenal shooters and definitely need to get out to a women's game this year. I do have plans to come out to a couple later on this season, so I'll be out there. So yeah, those are fun games. That was when we were beating Muffet McGraw and Notre Dame, and there was a couple games that they played close and went into overtime. So yeah, they're a fun group to watch for sure on the court, and they're Coach Bruno's got them moving in the right direction, as you said. So so shifting gears then to this point, men's basketball hasn't produced to what the players, coaches, yourself, me, and a lot of fans have expected. How do you adjust and evaluate going forward from here?
Well, I think part of it is just like with any sport, right? I mean, you got to look at the full body of work. And whether it was last year, the first year in the Stubblefield era, people talk about injuries, but, you can evaluate what the program is based on who you have too, right? And what your results. And we took a step back last year, no doubt. I mean, yeah, that was an opportunity missed if we were healthy, but you can't focus on that. You can focus on what you did have, and we should have won more games based on who we had on the floor and who was available, right? We finished that first season strong. took a major step forward after being 9-1, going 1-9, and finishing 5-5. And we didn't take that momentum and become a positive. Even at the end of last year, having a moment, a Madison Square Garden moment and winning a game and having a chance to knock off Xavier, who was a tournament second weekend team. Going into this year, I never envisioned a situation where we'd be, having this record on this day, going into this gauntlet of the 17 more Big East games, right? Because the league is as deep as it's going to be, and it's a challenge, right? I mean, you can't look at games on the schedule and say, okay, all right, we're going to get those. This is the gimme game. And I don't want to be that team either that everybody else is looking at, like, here's the night off either, right? We got to scratch and claw and fight, because trying to have a season where you're talking about, we lost 12 games in a row last year, right? I mean, I'm not trying to do that again.
No.
Right. Let alone where we're finishing to. So, it's just frustrating, and I've been trying to be around the team. I will tell you this, the guys are relentless. I don't know how they do it. I mean, because I'm beat down, and maybe it's because I can't make shots. I can't set any picks. I can't rebound. I can't make a free throw. You can't do as much to really impact them, but they're not quitting. And I hope our fans realize that, like, okay, if you're coming to games, you're fighting for those guys, right? They have nothing to do with the history of it. 8 of them weren't even here before this year. And as long as they continue to fight and keep working, hopefully we can get people to keep supporting them, because even at DePaud, we go on the road. We went to UConn. It's a sold-out crowd. And then we got to come here and play Creighton on Tuesday and hope we have enough fans in the building to give us a fighting chance. As you know, the fans can make a difference. And obviously, I get it. Hey, we'll come when you win. But we need a few of them to help us win, to get enough wins and momentum to where people get excited about it. And so, I hope they, especially our students, we're going to give you a bus ride there. Come out and support this team. If we can add to the people we came, to stick with us, because we can't control anything else. This is our team. This is who we are. Let's be the best version of us. Let's be the best version of ourselves, because I feel like we haven't played our A game yet, right? We can't be better. We're not going to be UConn. We're not going to be, Purdue, Arizona, whatever, but we could be the best version of DePaul, which is defending our tails off, keep forcing turnovers, some of the things we've got better at. But let's finish these games and let's put everybody in, you're playing DePaul, you're going to be in a dogfight, right? I mean, that's the best we can do right now. And let's see where the results come. And then we'll evaluate it at that point. And if we lose, hope, that's when you really start, when things get really troublesome. And I think I got a coach in Tony Stubblefield that's not letting go of the rope. I'm telling you, I'm around that team. I'm in the locker room with them. They're pissed. They're frustrated, but they're not giving up. And now they got to go back to school, right? They've had 6 weeks with no class. We're doing some things. There's some positives we're taking away from things, but we haven't played a full 35 minutes, let alone 40, of really maximum effort. We've always got that lull that'll cost you now, right? And so, we just got to keep getting better. Take it game by game. Don't get focused on the whole season. Disappointing game, let that one get away, because I thought we had a really good chance in that game to come away with a victory. They needed that. I mean, think about it. If they beat Georgetown, they're 3-3 in their last 6 games, right? I had to kind of look back and, because it's been such a troubling year, kind of forget that we actually won a few of late, and they've been spread out because of the Saturdays. But now you got a tough road. You got some teams right now. Nobody's undefeated in our league. You can't talk about what you don't have. You got to talk about what you do have and get the most out of it. So that's the charge of the staff. That's why we get paid to do what we do. And it's a results business in a tough league. And it's not going to get any easier.
Absolutely.
Georgetown, they've had a rough season, but I guarantee you they won't be in that situation. Next year they're going to work on getting better. And we got to make sure we're not the bottom. When I came in this league, it was Georgetown, St. John's, and us trying to figure things out. These were the teams that were predicted around the bottom, all right? Those other teams have took some steps forward. St. John's is playing better right now. Georgetown made a coaching change, and, they're recruiting and, in the mix for some high-level players for next year. We got to start seeing what we're going to be, right? And, and I think that's the way that's the hard part about the job. Some of it's simple. Everybody wants to pull the trigger. I do that in every other sport I watch, right? I mean, but when you're in it every day, it's not as easy because it affects so many things. But we're evaluating it. And men's basketball is so different because it's so big compared to everything else. It's our football program, right? And so it can hold back a lot of things for a lot of people. And honestly, it comes with more expectations because of what we put into it. And our staff understands that, and Tony understands that. And we're talking a lot more to not put a lot of gaps in the time, but we got to win games, right? We got to win ball games. It's that simple. We're 0-3. We got 17 regular season Big East games left. Got 17 opportunities. Let's see what we do.
Yeah. And Creighton doesn't tomorrow they've been picked towards the top of the league, but tomorrow, I mean, Creighton doesn't cause a lot of turnovers. They're last in the entire NCAA. So hopefully you guys can hopefully everyone could capitalize on that. You got to look for something to capitalize on that you could do better than the team you're playing. So hopefully that's one of the areas that DePaul can come out and take advantage of. So
right. I mean, and like I said, I've always said hope's not a strategy, right? So let's have a little better strategy in that and hope we're going to make more shots than them. But that's why I don't coach. That's why we're sitting here. We can talk about it. Let somebody else do it, right? And
Absolutely.
then we evaluate the results from there. But let's give our kids a chance. Let's keep pulling from the ones that can't get there. Give your tickets to somebody else if you got them. The ones that can be there, if you can, make it. Hopefully the weather doesn't affect their crowd Tuesday as well. But let's keep fighting. I mean, that's one thing DePaul has always done. We're going to keep fighting. And we're not letting up. I'm not letting up, right? And so, we're going to keep putting more energy in it. We're going to get this fixed, right? And so just have the faith. Let's keep plugging through and keep staying involved because we need you. Whether that's, if you got a vent, I'm fine with it. Send me an email, yell at your dog about me, whatever, or the team, because we got a vent. It's good. Get it out.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Absolutely.
It's okay. That's why we have each other, right? So as soon as we get off this show, John, I'm going to vent all my frustrations. I'm going to tell you what I'm frustrated about so I can get it out, so I can concentrate on the next day.
I've got all the time in the world, DeWayne. I got all the time in the world.
We got to get better. Right.
Well, thanks again. And, tomorrow, hopefully we bring home that W and, or we take that W on our court and use that as the next stepping stone for the next game. So again, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate all the insight and all the information that you've given us today. And we'll talk soon. And I'll wait for your venting right after this.
All right. Sound good. For Blue Demon Nation, hey, stick with us. Don't let go of the rope. Right? Don't overthink it. It's pretty basic. Right? We got to put in the effort. We need you as part of it. But results matter. And we've got to start winning some games. And we're going to keep working for you. This is going to be a better year. 2024. Now we'll make it. It's a Kobe year, right? We went from Jordan to Kobe, right? He's got to have something. Let's put in the work. And he was about to grind. And so let's come out with a better 24.
As always, thank you, DeWayne, for taking the time to join me and talk to Blue Demon Nation. I think that it was a good, solid interview from the perspective of what DeWayne had to say when it came down to winning. I think that obviously you got to take one game at a time. You're looking at each game on an individual level at this point and wanting to put the best foot forward every single time. And he alluded to it, as a fan, he's not thrilled that, how things are going. And as an athletic director, of course, there's only so much that he can control at this point in time. So I think from that perspective, you kind of have to look a little deeper into what he was saying there and just know that DePaul is going to be in good hands. DeWayne is going to do the right thing for DePaul. And again, he said it himself. There's a tough stretch here. You've got Villanova, Providence, Butler, Marquette, and then Creighton again. And the Seton Hall team who just beat Marquette. So you're going to have to take each game, one game at a time, try to make something happen on each night, and hope for the best, obviously. So far, it's been a little bit of a rough go. I should say it's been a lot of bit of a rough go. But I think going forward, talking about what's in place, DePaul will be in a better place come next year. I would say that's just my prognosticating for that, for lack of a better way to put it. But yeah, go out tonight, put your best foot forward, get more than 2 guys scoring points, because that's what you're going to need, and then try to beat that 15.5 point spread. Try to hopefully come out and win. I mean, it's Creighton. It's a tough game. Historically, Creighton has been hard for DePaul, and the reality of the situation is you've got to go out there and try to do something for the fans. Obviously, fans come out to the game. Students come out to the game. There's bus rides, there's free crumble cookies, and there's 5 opportunities to win $10,000. So see you all tonight, Wintrust Arena, for DePaul versus Creighton. And until then, go Blue Demons.